Good morning. Well, this is session 4 for sunset number 1, and I had explained to you that I tried doing this video last week. Today is Sunday, so it was Thursday or Friday, so close enough. And I struggled with it, so I ended up just washing the paint off. And you can do that as long as your background paint is really nice and dry. That's one of the things that I do like about the Alkyd paints is that they dry fast enough that, I have that option. If I have a painting session that just really, I feel like goes south on me, then I have the option of just completely washing that out. So you guys are just going to have to be patient. If you want to learn along with me, that's good. But if you're looking for somebody that's really proficient and remembers what they're doing, I'm not your teacher, because I am truly just learning right along with you. But today we're going to work down in here, just basically the whole bottom third of the painting. I'm hoping we can finish it up, and then next week we'll be able to come back in and finish this top 2/3, and then we'll be finished. But anyway, all right. Well, the first thing we're going to do is over here. Let's just go ahead and get these this little fog in the valley, and we mixed some kind of lavendery type looking paints. Let's find us a little skinny brush to put that in with. You can use the edge of it. We're going to blend it out anyway. And if you remember, I also mixed a paint that was really, really kind of purpley, that's going on further toward the edge of the painting. And you can, if you come on down in to right down in here, you see your paints turn more blue. So you can, if you want to, we did put a little on our tray, but you can actually add a little bit of the ultramarine to your lightest lavender and a little white to that, and just bring it to that color. And also we had talked about in the painting video, the mixing video, that the videos going forward after this series is finished, I think I'm going to make copies of the photograph itself, and anybody that is interested, it cost $1 or $2 to mail. Y'all can just help me out with the mailing fee. Well, it shouldn't be much, but I'll try to get copies made and have those available to send out so that you have an actual, I made that too light down in there, so mix it a little darker, yeah. So you have that in your hand. All right, use one of your little skinny pouncing brushes, and let's blend that out a little bit. We don't want that quite as bright as it shows up there. And just blend until you're happy with it. I want to lighten it considerably. I want it just to fade into that background. In the photograph itself, you almost have to just look for it. And if you want some really definite little lines, you can always just add those in with a tiny little brush and just trounce them in. I'll show you that in a moment. this little paintbrush. It's not quite as stiff as I need for it to be. That's better. One of the things, if you're using just regular canvas, I paint on wood, so I paint on birch panel. Hugh makes my little canvases for me, and I would suggest, if you want your surface to be really smooth, which I like mine to be really smooth, you just you gesso it and you sand it, and you gesso it and you sand it until you get the surface as smooth as you want it. And I didn't take the time to do the quality of job that I typically would have had I been, working toward putting this in the gallery. And I wish now that I had it, because it just makes it that much harder for me to get the effect that I want. So that's just a little heads up. If you're wanting your surface to be really, really smooth, and that's actually really, really difficult to do with canvas, because canvas in and of itself, it's knobby. It's just a knobby little thing to begin with. All right, now this little worn out brush right here that I've given a haircut, I'm going to take him and just give us some little wispies down in here. And I want them just to be almost not even really, you have to look for them. And we could have gone a lot deeper with our color down in this this lower section of this little mountain range. But anyway, for our first painting together, I think we're going to be all right. We'll add to it as time goes on. I think I want to darken just the bottom of this little wisp of clouds right here. And I want to highlight these down here just a little bit. All right. Okay. Now, moving into this section right here. This is going to be fairly intense. And the one thing that I'm thinking of doing that I'm not really positive about, but we're going to give it a try, is just adding this this palest yellow color in our sky. Oops, I'm bumping you around. A lot of that's going to be hidden behind the tree lines, remember. I'm going to lean the camera as I need to so I can see partly. And then coming on down into this section right here, I'm also going to just do this. Let's trounce it out, especially where it's hitting that mountain. Okay, now when we're coming on down with the oranges, let's try not to get it over in that mountain. Guess we could go ahead and make some of our rays because they're going to be popped out of there. And then that darkest orange, that we were using. All right, let's trounce it out pretty quickly because it's going to dry as thin as it is. And go with your rays. All right, and then when we let this dry, next week we'll put the definite lines over top because we're going to have some color down in here today, and so we don't want to drag that totally down in there. Just kind of a wisp of a color. Mainly why we will even want to do this is because we don't want to have to drag color back up over top of this area when we get it finished. Just blend it pretty good. Don't worry too much about blending it completely out. All right, we're good. Let's leave that alone. Well, let's not. I see some definite blips. All right. Now you can see these trees up in here. First, we need to work on our sun. Let's get our sun put in place. And our sun, remember, needs to be a lot larger than we have them on there right now. So let's take a really super duper pale lemon yellow. That looks almost totally white, doesn't it? It's all right. It will soften as we trounce on it a little bit. All right. Just barely soften him. Just going around the edges. we're looking at it through the atmosphere, so it's not going to be just a absolute perfectly edged sun. It's just a little fuzzy. We want them to be just a little bit fuzzy. Okay, and right next to him, let's brighten up the sky just a little bit. Using a color not quite as light as he is, but quite a bit lighter. Oops, that's still a little bit too dark, or too light. Yeah. I should have done that first. Just honestly, if you haven't done yours yet, do this background before you do the sun color, because you don't want to have to work around what's supposed to be in front. And I really don't need to worry about that sun so much, because I can always just redo it. Just make it softer and softer as it leaves the vicinity of that sun. Try to make it as smooth as possible. You don't want any little blips in the sky. And don't worry about up in here so much, because we're going to have a really intensely bright, you see that cloud where the sun is just absolutely reflecting off of that. Let me just get a little bit of that paint off. I think that's hindering me. All right. All right. That softened it a bit. Now, we're going to come down in here. We're going to go ahead and start working on that tree line. And that's going to kind of seem odd, because we're going to be putting those trees, if you see, they're like let's take some Payne's Gray. We do not want to make purple, but we're going to add Winsor Red. And let me see, enough Winsor Red to get it past purple, but keep the depth. All Let's see what we got. Almost. Let's do some more red. Okay. When you mix this particular color, it's just Payne's Gray and Winsor Red, and you're going to bring it up to a, it's kind of like a reddish brown. I still think I'm going to leave put part of that to the side because you'll use part of that, but let's bring that red up a little bit more for the section that touches the sky. Otherwise, it's going to look pretty harsh, and I don't want it to be really harsh. Because where this color goes right against that bright yellow, it's going to be intense anyway. All right, I think we're good there. That's where we're going to stop. So let me bend this camera down here so I can show you the colors that I mixed there. See? This lighter color, this darker color. I think we're okay there. Pull you back up. I'm always afraid of messing with the camera when I'm when I'm in the middle of filming, because I have actually stopped the video on accident, and I don't know how to fix it. So I have to kind of just start all over, and I'm 22 minutes in. I don't want to have to start all over. All right, now let's bring some trees up into that sunshine. We can see we've got them going up quite a ways on the side. And using your brushes that are gnarly, your gnarliest brushes, in my estimation, usually gives you the best effects. I actually, on purpose, make my brushes gnarly sometimes for this reason. So I give them haircuts. And just barely, I'm really saying seriously, just barely touch the your canvas with this brush when you're doing these very faint, distant trees, because you can always make them thicker and whatever else you want to add to them, but it's really, really, really intensely difficult to go back and fix them and pull it off. Rather, you can go back and fix them and put more on, but getting more off is really, really tough. So right now what I'm doing is just putting my line in. I just want to see where I'm headed. And you don't want them to look too uniform. Trees are not uniform in the wild. And don't worry about tripping over into another color right now. We can always go back into these darker colors as we move forward. But be sure to leave some sky showing behind them, because there always will be, whether it's in the fullness of summer, there'll always be a little bit of sun shining through the leaves. All right. Now, one thing that you can do, and this is tedious. I'm going to just give you a heads up. This is tedious. But one thing that you can do is take a very, very fine little brush like this, and you swirl it in your paint so that you get it to a point, and then you actually start dotting in more detail. You know, you have to touch it softer than I am, because I'm blipping it. That's why I like to cut my brushes and make them into multiple little bristles, so that I can do that with a funky brush instead of one little blip at a time. But just in the very edges, it does help to define things a little bit. And as you come lower, you can begin to darken that a little bit. And as you're moving further away from the sun, start using that darker red. And as you move further and further away from that, you're going to start using your darkest. As a matter of fact, mix a little bit of your darkest green color and your darkest red color. And as you're moving further away from that sun, you go into that. And leave some areas that are just kind of gappy looking, because there'll be little areas that are just gappy. If that's a word. Is that a word? I don't know. We'll say it's a word. Okay, and as you're moving down this side of the mountain, use more of the greens. I'm saying I put those rays in prematurely, so we're going to forget those. Just paint over them. Just paint over them. I don't know what I was thinking. Those will have to go in next week. let's just get this mountain fixed. Oops. Sorry, girls and guys. All right, you're probably going to need to squirt a bit more Payne's Gray out on your canvas. And that's okay. Good morning, baby.
Good morning. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I heard talking. I was like, who's talking? Am I good?
It's me.
I slammed the door and you're right there.
You're good. You're good. You're such a darling. All right. Let's just put some Payne's Gray in there because we're going to just kind of cover out and blip out all that. You're fine, honey. Everybody likes to find out what Aiden's up to.
Helping a friend right now.
Helping a friend right now. Well, that's always a good thing.
You just have an eye that I don't.
Actually, I'm really struggling. I was just telling my buddy.
If that's struggling, then I don't know what to call my stick figures.
Oh, gracious.
Well, I'll let you get back to it. It's looking good, yeah.
Thanks, baby. You're just a sweetheart. Such a good kid. Alright, so I've just done away with our rays, and that's okay. We'll put them back in next week. So it's looking like we're moving toward maybe 7 sessions. Y'all are gonna just have to hang with me a little bit longer. All right, there we go. We'll come on over in there in a minute. But now, oh, excuse me. My coffee didn't set well, apparently. Okay, as we're moving down, let's darken a little bit. I want to totally get rid of that that line that we had the other day, though, of the Payne's Gray trees. You can leave them as just a tiny bit of shadow, but we don't want them. We don't want them there taking over the show. All right. Now this is where, as we come down, leave the Payne's Gray as your shadow and just start doing just a little bit of highlight. Just a little tip of the tree. Okay, even though the sun is not hitting these trees over here, you would actually, in fact, see just some ambient light reflecting, but the darkest one, the darkest light, or not the darkest light, you'd see just a little bit of the tips of the trees. If you were standing and looking at it, and not looking at it through a photograph, that's why when you're painting, get off there, fly. Got a fly in here with me. When you're painting, you have to use your imagination, because there's things that you would see if you were in real life that you're not going to see in a photograph. So just try to think of that. And as we're moving down, those trees are actually going to become more and more, oops, I'm blipping you around. See, my paint's already drying. More and more blue. And over in here, you don't have to worry so much about too many highlights because you wouldn't see that many highlights. Even in person, because it's dark out there. So let's leave this down in here. Pretty much just, there'll be a spot here and there of a highlight, but not many. Most of our highlights are going to concentrate right up in there. And especially over in here where the sun would more naturally hit. But I guess what I want to emphasize is that you don't want this to be just, you know, a painted, you do want it to have lights and darks, just a little bit of light and dark in there so that it can give the suggestion. All right, Fly, get out of here. Just wanted to paint with us today. Giving the suggestion of highlights. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let's come on over this way. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of just pure Payne's Gray down in there. And when you're looking at something, just think, does that look natural? Does that look like it would actually look? The dogs are up to it. What you would expect to see. If it's not what you would expect to see, then think about what needs to be changed in it. A whole lot of, there goes Bela. He's such a booger. He's so mournful. Doesn't take much to get him riled. All right. Now as we come on down here, I'm going to continue with the greens because at this point, I don't think that I'm seeing so much of the good gravy, silly doggies. I'm not seeing so much of this red. That red stays up in the sun area. You see what I'm saying? Just maybe the least little bit on just the very edges. We'll just do that because I want to. Okay. And then going on down into the greens. That's Moxley. That's one of Aaron and Aiden's pups. And I don't know what he's barking at, but he's apparently seeing something that's got his interest. Oops. I'm still shaking you around. Sorry. Got that too green up in there, so let's just darken him up a little bit. And then we'll put some highlights on it. Okay, and at some point, you're kind of going to start just getting the highlights on the side facing the sun. You see what I'm saying? You're not really getting the highlights everywhere because the sun now is coming down actually at an angle. I'm still using those reds. I guess that's all right. Maybe it's fall of the year. But as we get farther away from there, let's just fade into the greens completely. And now you can, I'm just getting the suggestion of leaves on here. You can always go back in and spend as much time as you like just detailing your trees, okay? If you start seeing areas that look like they need to just have more depth in them, then give them some shadows. Because we don't want to do away with our shadows, we just want to add highlights. All right, now this is the part that might scare some of y'all because you know I'm going to blot it. You want to blot it softly enough that you're not smearing the paint up into the sky. But you also want to take off enough of this so that when you put the rays in, you're not going to have a blop in the way of smoothing your ray out. All right, so set it on there carefully and wipe. You never want to wipe up into the sky at this point. Wipe. All right. And if you're still seeing blops, wipe it again with a clean section of your blue towel. All right, I got rid of the blops. Now, what I want to do and what I need to do is two different things. But what I need to do is come through and get rid of the little hairs. You can see I've got lots of hairs from my little cheap trouncers that I use from the children's section. Actually, and from my worn out paintbrushes as well. Okay. And don't forget, one thing that I haven't done on this video is so much go on around the edge. That's one thing you can do without spending time on that on a video, okay? So be sure to remember to do that. Some of these hairs have dried in. That's okay, we'll get rid of them later. After the painting is dried, you can take a point of your palette knife and pop those loose. All right, let's see what we've got there. Okay. All right. I think we're okay. And I'm not so worried about, you know, this right here under the sun, because we are going to have these sun lines coming down. And I'm just about decided I'm not going to worry about that definite of color all through there. That's going to be harder to achieve than I want to work on this painting video. But we will put several of the little sun lines coming in and blend those out after the painting is good and dry, which will probably be next week. But for this week, I think we can go ahead and put in this line of nice bright clouds being hit by that sunshine. Let me find me a good brush for that. All right, I'm just going to use a little skinny one, a little bitty skinny one. And that is really almost white. So take your lightest lemon yellow that we've already mixed and add a pretty good little bit of white. You don't want it as white as, well, I don't know, it's about as white as your sunshine. But let's start with this color right here. And we can always lighten it later if we decide that's not light enough. Okay. Right along the top of that sun. And you can use a little straight brush if you want, or a little round brush if you want to, long bristles. I probably should have just used. It's just getting too smeary anyway. All right, and then up above it, there's another really bright cloud that's a little bit darker. So let's go a little bit darker with them. It's still a very intense little cloud. And as you get further away from the sun, you can still bring that little bright, intense cloud on out just using that darker color. Yeah, I need a different brush. All right, let me blot that real quick. And when you've got something this tiny that you're needing to blend, use your judgment to figure out which paintbrush you need to employ. And for me, I'm using just a little flat brush to use just the edge of it. Where that came from. And just blend till it looks right to you. Okay, and there's a couple just really intense spots that I'm going to add back because I think I took too much out. I'm just going to soften those just barely. Let's add some just little bitty wispies through here and there so that doesn't look so thought out. Like trees, you don't want it to be uniform. Clouds are never uniform. Sometimes when there's a specific wind current happening, they can look somewhat uniform, but I don't think I like that one. Let's just blend those out a little bit because they do look too uniform to me. So just let those be highlights on those other clouds. Now, bless you. Here, Huey sneezing. He's down in the basement working on something. Bless. Just damp and dusty down there. We need to get a dehumidifier for the basement. We're in the process of kind of closing everything in down there so that it'd be a little easier to contain the problems. My nose is itching. My granny always said that meant somebody was coming. She is a cute little person. All right. We'll call that enough for right now. Now, we'll tell you that in the center of that sun, I see some pure white. So I am going to take some pure white and just dot it right in the middle of that sun, toward the top actually. Don't take it all the way to your edge because you want your edge to be soft. All right, that's what I wanted to do. Well, I think we're going to stop there because I'm still struggling with some ideas, and I don't need to struggle with them right now on camera. You can see where, let me show you this. See all this shadow up in here? That's where the paint had dried the other day and all of this over in here, where the paint had dried, and I washed it off the canvas, but it didn't all come off. But that's all right. All of that's going to be painted over when we start working on these upper clouds. So, all right, y'all, that's it for now. We're at 56, almost 57 minutes. I hope that you are learning something. I am learning something myself, but it's frustrating me. I think that hopefully we get this painting finished and behind us, and the next one will be much, much easier. That's my proclamation. The next one is going to be much, much easier. All right. Well, you have a wonderful, wonderful day. It is beautiful here. I'm going to go spend some time outside in the sunshine. We're supposed to turn cold on Tuesday. So I want to spend today and tomorrow outside poking around. And I will talk to y'all later. Love ya. Bye-bye.